My name is Apanu Gideon Abaminu, and this morning I would like to share with you on a topic titled The Impacts of Military Regime on the Economic Development in Africa. First and foremost, I would like us to understand what military regime and who the dictator is. Military regime or dictatorship is the political regime or dictatorship in which the military exacts complete or substantial power or control over the political authorities in their countries, and the dictators is usually a highly ranked officer. In other words, the military regime, it's a military rule. It's a system whereby the military takes over the political affairs of a country. Now, during each military regime, the dictators use the economic development of their countries as an excuse of military dictatorship, which sometimes might lead them to do a military coup d'etat. A military coup d'etat is a forceful removal of whoever is in power, and it's usually done by the military. The economic development and growth had nothing or little to do with military duties and responsibilities in every sovereign state. The economic development and growth had little or nothing to do with the military duties and responsibilities in each state. But the military, when they want to do a military coup d'etat, they don't care about that. They just go ahead doing that. During his or her regime, the dictator, the development that comes with it is either positive or negative. So we will start looking at the impacts of military regime on the economic development in Africa. Starting with two countries, I'm going to talk about Uganda and Nigeria. And in both countries, I'm going to talk about the positive and the negative impacts. Starting with the negative, most of the resources are being owned by one individual during a military regime. And all the resources being owned, it's belonging to the military. That is the leader now, and probably his family and anyone associated with him, which makes the economy not to grow because there is no money in circulation. We need to understand that during the military regime, usually the dictators think more about the military than the public. It makes it hard for money to circulate during a military regime. For example, in Uganda, the economy deteriorated from 1971 to 1979 under the rule of President Idi Amin. This was because he chose military policies, national and ill-chosen economic strategies to eliminate foreign economic system practice. He increased public expenditures, which escalated during 1970s, and by 1980, Uganda's economy had nearly been destroyed, which made the EAC disband. That's the East African, Conference, disband in 1977. It made Tanzania to join efforts with other countries with Uganda in removing the military regime of President Amin in 1979. After Idi Amin's departure, the successive governors made attempts to restore international confidence in Uganda's economy through a combination of development plans and tightened economic budgets. Until date, we can see that the African country Uganda has been trying to regain its good economy, especially an example of that we can see through their currency. Right now, Uganda is trying everything possible to make their economy good so they can have their currency back to the level that it was. Because of lack of security protecting businesses and also the laws that protect the business, there is more of a saving instead of investing, because that is what the military regime usually decides. And by doing that, it helps in reducing the economy because money is not in circulation again. When you invest and you don't like have savings, you only invest, there is no money moving around, it makes the economy to grow less instead of growing more. For example, Nigeria is one of the many countries that have experienced military regime. The effect of military regime on Nigeria's economy started way back in 1966 to 1999. The military incursions caused serious accidents and fatalities to the modest foundational economic policies. Back in those days, the military personnel were really not trained on the economic and political leadership, which made them to have their own policies and do their own things based on what they know and based on the rules of the military. Every first dictator, when he or she comes to the office, it usually starts from the civil wars, which leads to loss of lives and properties worth millions of dollars, in which by the time they end up spending those millions of dollars, the economy is going down already. In the case of Nigeria, all the military regimes they have had starts with the idea of improving the economy, and then most of them end up destroying the economy instead of improving it. It is no doubt that the Nigerian military has had available impact on economic development of the country within the period that they have ruled. The economic development of Nigeria was targeted at increasing the living standards as well as improving the economic growth in Nigeria. Most of the military regimes were characterized by corruption and economic wastage. Now, as you can see, we've looked at the impact of the military regime on the economy of Africa. Usually, most African countries, including Congo, Uganda, Chad, Burkina Faso, and countries like Zimbabwe, who were under dictators, you find that the economy really grew less. It like really destroyed the economy, under the regimes because it was based on the military rule. But now let's also look at some positive impact of military regime in the economy of Africa. Although it is well known to people that dictatorship is not an indicator of low economy in a country, because there are a lot of Asian countries that were under dictatorship rule, but the economy, or rather let me say their economies, were really good, and the economy is still growing. For example, let's look at Singapore, South Korea, China, and other countries that we don't know of. In the late 1970s, Ugandans escaped a great famine that was coming to them only because they had engaged in farming. Even including the rurals and the urban, they all engaged in subsistence agriculture. Both commercial and subsistence agriculture operated in the monetary and non-monetary sectors. By the mid-1980s, the government reports an escalation of approximately 44% of the nation's GDP originated from the monetary economy. Most of its nation's informal monetary activity took place in the agricultural sector of the nations, which made it good. The military regime of Murtala Muhammad and Olusegun Obasanjo in Nigeria brought a lot of profit from oil when the price increased in 1973 to 1974, until its declination in 1979 because of the oil boom. And now, because of the oil boom, the development in revenues made it possible for a speedy rising in pay, especially for the urban professional classes. In 1984, during one of President Muhammadu Buhari's regime, he tried to establish open responsibility and to make dynamic economy without changing the power structure of the nation. The civilian government was very corrupt, which gave the military so much eagerness in the politics of the nation, and still they didn't change anything even after taking over the political affairs of the nation. The military as administration conducted tribunals to check corruption, and numerous outrages were uncovered. In 1975, the military was trying to accomplish 2 points. First, it was to secure public health by diminishing levels of corruption, and secondly, it was to show sense of duty by reducing the federal budget. Also, the president propelled war against indiscipline in the spring of 1984. The economic impacts of military rule were disastrous, despite the fact that we can't refuse to credit them for some of their formative economic arrangements which helped the country eventually in time. Most particularly, the dictators Murtala Muhammad and Olusegun Obasanjo's regime basically made an emphasis on the private sector of the benefits of the country. General Yakubu Gowon in 1966 to 1975, who was another dictator, was faced with the civil war and post-war efforts, while Murtala and Obasanjo's regime did a very good job in stabilizing the economic conditions of the country through most of the money that they have had and enjoy, which was coming from the crude oil money in the country. The dictators Muhammadu Buhari and Idi Abo's regime did more of damage control of the economy by cutting costs and reducing administrative corruption among the civil service. General Ibrahim Babangida's regime from 1985 to 1993, when he resigned, adopted the austerity measures of Buhari and Idi Abo's regime, but was also characterized by huge corrupt practices which further damaged the economy of the country. General Sani Abacha's regime from 1993 to 1998, when he died, helped build domestic business, while General Abdul Salam Abubakar's regime, which was on the 6th June 1998, after the death of General Sani Abacha, handed over the power to a democratically elected government in 1999, and that was the year Nigeria got free from military rule. Military economic approach of the 1980s have 45% of foreign exchange profits and were venturing into the debts and services that were almost came with no development. Now, during each military regime, what we should know about a good thing, what we should know about the positive impact was, and that is how I want to conclude, we can see that during each military regime, all the countries that were involved used agriculture to build up its economy again. And also, the military had other impacts that benefited their countries in other ways. We just need to study about them and then we'll know. But the military regime had good and bad impacts. And I want to leave you with this. In each country, the agricultural sector is the one that usually develops its economy in Africa. Thank you.